With the MLB trade deadline quickly approaching, I wanted to look into a team who I think will be buyers and have the chance to really go all in for a deep playoff run this season. That team would be the Chicago Cubs. In a short-form video I made highlighting a game where the Cubs hit 8 home runs on July 4th, I noticed 2 pretty consistent comments on the video. The first was about how the Cubs will be serious contenders come October, but the other contained a caveat for that first point. If they truly want to be contenders, they will need to get starting pitching help. Most teams can always use more pitching, especially if they want a legit chance to win playoff games, let alone the World Series. This Cubs lineup has had a great season so far, and with the lack of depth in their rotation, mostly due to injuries, the trade deadline is a buy or bust situation for them. They have the chance to bolster their pitching staff and support the strong offensive unit they currently have. Cubs starters rank 17th in total innings pitched this season with just over 540 total innings pitched. Of those innings, Matthew Boyd has been the most reliable and consistent option for the Cubs and has playoff experience, which is always a plus. Shota Imanaga is another guy that the Cubs should be able to rely on, but past that looms uncertainty. Unfortunately, Justin Steele had a season-ending injury, and Jameson Taillon will be tough to fully depend on with his current injury situation. 1 or even 2 additions to this pitching staff will be essential. With the Cubs' current offense, it feels like adding to the rotation via trade could be enough to carry this team deep into the playoffs. There are 3 starters who I believe would not only be a great fit for the Cubs, but could garner some genuine interest from Chicago's front office. These 3 pitchers are Michael Soroka, Zach Littell, and Chris Paddack. I chose these 3 specifically because of how I believe they will fit right into the Cubs' pitching philosophy. Many teams may claim that they are individualized in how they develop players, but the way that teams build their roster and the underlying metrics of the players on their roster tend to tell us otherwise. There usually is an overarching philosophy that each team believes in. One recent example of this concept is a trade that the Astros and Cubs made this past offseason. The Astros have one of the most unique left fields in the MLB, and because of that, right-handed hitters can take advantage of their short left field wall and hit home runs that might not be a home run in many other ballparks. Right-handed hitters who tend to pull the ball in the air have a significant advantage when it comes to this. That is why it made so much sense when the Astros acquired Isaac Paredes in the Kyle Tucker trade. His hitting metrics may not be impressive across the board, but one stat that he excels in is pulling the ball in the air. Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman are 2 other hitters with this same trait who thrive for the Astros in their run of championship seasons. They are smaller guys who still hit for power due to their ability to pull the ball in the air at a high rate. Houston's ballpark is a dream for hitters like them, which is why the Astros value guys like Paredes who can pull the ball in the air. And to no surprise, he has hit 19 home runs this season, which already matches his total from last year in 200 less at-bats. Circling back to the Cubs' pitching philosophy, they tend to like starting pitchers who throw a high percentage of four-seam fastballs in the zone, and one of the byproducts of this is a low walk rate. I will not fully dive into the depths of this philosophy, but some of it can be credited to the fact that they play at Wrigley Field, a more pitcher-friendly ballpark, which ranks 24th in StatCast park factors. Additionally, they have a solid defense, with Pete Crow Armstrong leading the charge as one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. For more insight into the Cubs' pitching philosophy, I would highly recommend checking out this video from a few months ago by Lance Brozdowski. He does a great job breaking down exactly what the Cubs are doing and also analyzes some minor league data. Four-seam fastball usage and walk rate will be 2 areas I consistently bring up for the pitchers I feel the Cubs could acquire. That is because the Cubs' current 5 starters all throw their four-seam fastball over 40% of the time and have a walk rate that is above league average. Michael Soroka is the first pitcher I think would be a great addition for the Cubs. He throws his four-seam fastball 45% of the time and has a walk rate of 7.3%, which is in the 65th percentile. His barrel rate of 6.3% is in the 78th percentile, which would play well at Wrigley. His slurve is also one of the most valuable breaking pitches in baseball with a run value of 9, which is in the 95th percentile. There are very few pitchers who will be available with a better pitch than Soroka's slurve. Another factor that is important to note is that the Nationals are not in a spot to compete this year. They most likely will be sellers, currently sitting in last place in their division. Plus, Soroka will be a free agent next year, so they will be looking to dump what is left of his $9 million salary while also gaining some future value. Zach Littell is the next pitcher I have on the Cubs' radar. This is an interesting one because the Rays only sit 1.5 games out of a wildcard spot. Regardless, the Rays have been known to go with a buy and sell approach at the deadline, trying to squeeze value out of pitchers with expiring contracts while still retaining value to give them a chance to compete. I think this is another opportunity the Rays would pounce on if they get a return they like. As for the Cubs, Littell could be a great fit. He has a walk rate in the 99th percentile and always seems to play up from his expected stats, which don't look great, but the results have been consistently positive over the last few seasons. He can provide much-needed starter innings and has a four-seam fastball with a positive run value that he throws 23% of the time. If the Cubs were to acquire him, I would not be surprised if his sinker usage took a bit of a dip from the 16% it is currently at and gets moved to his fastball to bring it above the 30% mark. Littell might not be the first guy on the Cubs' radar, but I would not be surprised to see the Rays move him, and if the Cubs are still in the market for a starter at that point, they could absolutely be in that conversation. The third pitcher I think could be a good fit for the Cubs is Chris Paddack, even though Joe Ryan has been the Twins starter whose name has been floated around quite a bit this deadline. I'm rolling with Paddack here, first because he is also on an expiring contract, and with the Twins currently below 500, sitting fourth in their division, it seems like the right move would be for them to get as much value as they can from Paddack before he becomes a free agent. Paddack fits the mold for a Cubs starter. He is throwing his four-seam fastball 46% of the time with a walk rate at 5.7%, which is in the 87th percentile. He is a guy who might be a bit cheaper than the other two because his stats are not as flashy and he has an ERA around 5. That being said, the Cubs might feel more confident with him at the back end of their rotation than a guy like Ben Brown just because of the experience Paddack has, which could be a safer bet once the playoffs come around. Whether it is one of these three options or not, I am confident the Cubs will be looking to make a move. One other guy they could look at is right across town with the White Sox, and they are another team that will be sellers in this market. Adrian Houser will be a free agent next year and has been solid in the 11 starts he has made this season. I did not put him in the top 3 targets for the Cubs because he primarily throws a sinker 46% of the time and his walk rate is about league average at 8%. I think the Cubs could still be keen on acquiring him, but the other 3 pitchers truly fit the mold of high fastball usage with a low walk rate. It will be interesting to see how much the Cubs front office invests into this team during the trade deadline. They will most likely try to keep a lot of their young talent and prospects, especially considering all 4 of the guys I mentioned would be rentals. If they are able to pull off some trades to bring in much needed pitching depth and ease up the workload on the bullpen, it could go a long way towards propelling them to a deep and exciting playoff run.